What's up, config? Welcome to the Maker Stage. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jenny, and I'm a writer and editor on Figma's Story Studio team. We have some amazing talks lined up for you over the next couple of days. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please remember to silence your cell phones. You're not going to want to miss any of this. Our first speakers are here with a solution for what I like to call the toggle tax. What happens when you're constantly switching from tab to tab. Addison Rodamista and Chloe Fagan-Tucker will show us workflows to connect Google Workspace and Figma so that great idea that you have in Meet or Chat actually makes it to the canvas. Please give them a warm welcome. We'll have Addison on first.
Thank you so much. Hello, config. How is everybody doing? Everybody excited? Let's go. Figma, let's go. Let's go. Quick introduction, some brief history. My name is Addison Rodamista. I'm a design manager on Google Chat, which is an asynchronous communication tool in the Workspace suite. I've been in the design space for a very, very long time. I started when I was a kid with ambitious ideas about video games that I wanted to realize. I was pretty decent with art, animation, design, things like that, but I knew nothing about code. So I'd find people on the internet to build these games with me. But collaboration looked a little bit different back then. It usually went, I'd have some ideas about games that I wanted to build, I'd sketch them in my design tool, add some annotations, some notes, and then I'd zip up that file and email it to the people that I was working with online. Wait about a week, they'd make their changes, send the file back to me, and I'd have to manually merge all of this work together before I sent the file back to them. And this process just looped endlessly for months. And amazingly, we were able to get work done, but there was so much friction in every step of that process. Now, everybody here is very aware. Figma completely changed the game for collaboration, especially with us designers. It brought so much of that product development process into the design tooling with us, making those iterations and designs just so much more seamless. But as I've continued to grow in my own career and worked with increasingly broad teams, I recognize that there's still this lingering problem, which is that communication continues to be fragmented. While we'd love for Figma to be that single source of truth for product development, the reality is conversations and discussions and decisions are happening across meetings, documents, chats. And with that fragmentation comes this constant need for realignment. Now, Google Workspace offers a suite of tools to help assist with this fragmentation, but I think the best way to understand how this helps us in our design process is to walk through a story. So meet Steve. Steve works at a smart water bottle company, and as I'm sure many of us here have experienced at some point in the last year, just received a PRD from his product counterpart about a wildly ambitious new AI direction they'd like to take their hydration mobile app. Now, a lot of designers at this point might get excited, jump into the Figma file, start sketching out their ideas right away, but not Steve. Steve recognizes that visibility into the design process and the design thinking is just as important to influencing his cross-functional partners in the final product direction as the design work itself. So instead, Steve pings that product manager, asks for edit access to that document, and introduces what he calls the UX tab. Now, the UX tab is Steve's to own, and he owns it. He designs a beautiful header, treats every detail intentionally, and consolidates all of his non-design work into this document. Think things like design principles, executive steerings, cross-functional feedback, and research insights. But Steve also has a trick up his sleeve. Instead of settling for plain text and long, messy URLs that clutter up this document that he spent so much time making beautiful, Steve leverages the Figma Workspace integration to bring more of that design context into his workflows. Now for docs, what this means, when he drops that link into the Figma file, it immediately transforms into this beautiful smart chip. Now this feels completely native. It looks like any other product that you embed within the Workspace suite. But the real magic comes alive when his cross-functional partners hover over those links. It presents beautiful metadata about the Figma file and brings those thumbnails that he spent so much time curating to life. Now, at this point, Steve is feeling pretty good. He's done his discovery work. He's coordinated with user research on some upcoming research studies. And he's taken a first pass at the hydration mobile app redesign. He's ready for some feedback, so he signs up for his team's weekly design crit. And now this is usually where Google Meet comes in. Now, intermission to this story, and a quick show of hands. How many of you have ever gone to a meeting to present and you need to dig through like 20 tabs to find the file? We've all been there. Everybody's been there. I know it's true. And once you do find it, you need to jump over to that new context and present from somewhere else outside of the meeting, meaning you're missing all of those real-time reactions to the audience, to your design work. Steve does not have that problem. The Figma integration that he enabled before allows him to embed that entire interactive canvas directly into Google Meet. So this means that Steve can pan around the file, zoom in on micro interactions, and drive that presentation, all while keeping an eye on his team's real-time reactions, so he never loses read of the room. But this is where it transforms from a presentation to a true collaboration. See, everyone else in that Meet call also gets access to that full interactive canvas. So they aren't just passively watching a video feed of his presentation. They're actually in that design file with him. Now, peers can drop comments on elements they're reacting to or duplicate a frame to demonstrate a quick mock-up variant on the fly. And crit stops being about spectation and starts being about this real-time collaboration. Now, as I'm sure you've gathered by now, Steve is an absolute pro. He's not distracting himself with taking notes because he knows that the Take Notes from Me feature in Meet is going to capture all of that feedback from the meeting automatically. So when Crit wraps up, he's able to review that entire transcript, which highlights critical points of the discussion, documents decisions and alignments that were made, and flags explicit action items that he needs to close before next week's Crit. Now you must be asking yourself, could life get any easier for Steve? The answer is yes. Because not only was the chat on fire with compliments about his exceptional design work during that crit, but that chat is actually powered by Google Chat under the hood. So this fundamentally changes that post-crit workflow. When the video call ends, the conversations do not disappear. They just seamlessly transition to persistent searchable chats. So every Figma link that was shared, every piece of written feedback, every compliment or consensus that was reached during that meeting lives on. For designers, this means never losing momentum from your crits. So the next morning, when Steve's colleague Raymond reaches out, wanting to visualize some new ideas from Steve's Figma file, he's able to post about it in that same chat they used in the crit. And this is where the real magic of the workspace integration comes together. Because after Raymond makes his edits and leaves some comments in that Figma, Steve gets a ping from the Figma app that was automatically added to Google Chat when he enabled that workspace integration. In fact, Steve's entire Figma ecosystem now flows straight through chat. Whether it's Raymond's design iterations, a team FigJam brainstorm, or a Figma slides presentation they were putting together for this year's config, every tag and update finds him automatically. And the integration is smart. It knows when Steve is actually looking at the Figma files, so not to create additional duplicate noise. And what this means is that when Raymond's feedback does come through, Steve is not even at his desk. He's standing in line for coffee. And because he gets the ping on the mobile app, he's able to reply to those comments directly from chat, which means he's constantly unblocking his peers and moving work forward, regardless of where he is. Now, Raymond assumes Steve is just a machine, living in Figma all day long, every day. But in reality, the chat app is a superpower for staying responsive even when he's away from that canvas. Now, Steve has figured out something pretty important here. Fragmentation is just the reality of the design process. There's no avoiding conversations, discussions, and decisions happening across a variety of tooling. But when you're able to create these deep integrations between the tools that matter to our workflows the most, those ideas and discussions are connected and accessible. It means you're always able to maintain a sense of flow and continuity in the work. Now, the tools in Steve's story are really just a fraction of the value that the Workspace Suite can provide you and your teams. And thank you so much for letting me share this story with you. To show you how else we can level up your team's workflows, please join me in welcoming my colleague, Chloe Fagan-Tucker. Chloe?
Thanks so much, Addison. Nice to see all of you. fun fact, this is my second time at Config, and I was sitting where you are right now on the maker stage last year, thinking about ways that I could come and talk to you guys about all the awesome things that we're doing at Google Workspace. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Chloe Fagan-Tucker. I work in strategic partnerships and business development at Google Workspace. What that means is we work with amazing partners like Figma to bring about integrations and tools that help you use our products together and really help bring your workflows to life. So all of the integration examples that Addison just covered, my team is responsible for those. So, shout out to partnerships. But today, I'm here for a different reason. Not everybody can have a product partnerships team that builds these amazing integrations. And so my goal today is to convince you that if you have a great idea that touches your product space, that also makes sense for your content within Google Workspace, that with those ideas that you want to tinker with, that you want to build with, that you want to launch with, you can use the tools, the canvas, and the context that lives within Google Workspace to do that. You can basically go from designer to developer, all with using the tools that we are launching with Workspace to bring those ideas to life. So stay with me. I'll share a few examples that I'm really excited about to show you how it works. So before we get into that, I'd love to know who's in the audience, who came to Config today. So hopefully you know all about Google Workspace at this point in the presentation. How many of you, show of hands, use Google Workspace at work? Awesome, that's great to see. How many of you have used it to connect with your colleagues to move an idea from ideation all the way through to launch? Awesome. And then how many of you guys have used Google to actually build apps that talk to your product context or that pull in data from Workspace and make it come alive with the things that you've wanted to launch? How many of you guys have done that actual build work? Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I know exactly the audience that I need to convince now. So zooming out just a bit, Google Workspace is not just a set of individual apps. It's not just Gmail, it's not just Docs, not just chat, but it represents the most popular productivity suite that exists today. We currently support 3 billion users, 13 million customers, and what I'm really proud of, we have over 6 billion app installs from our marketplace globally. So whether you're a lean startup, just down the street in the Bay Area, or a massive global enterprise, at Workspace, we're really where your work gets done. And so again, we have that canvas that allows your ideas to come to life, and we'll spend a bit of time talking about the context that you use to work within Workspace and pulling that into apps that you can build. So what's driving this usage? What's behind the canvas? All of this is really a result of the evolution of AI that's been tying all these pieces together. No surprise, AI is everywhere right now. I'm sure you're going to hear about it a ton today. But we've advanced beyond just having chatbots, things that kind of wait for you to give it direction and gives you an answer back. And now we're talking through things that are more on the agentic transformation level. So remember, being a designer to developer, having that backdrop, the choice is entirely yours, really, about how you want to leverage AI within Workspace, how you want to use it to leverage what you want it to do for you. So we've developed capabilities directly within our apps to really elevate your team productivity. Again, using it for that chatbot kind of use case, all the way to running in the background, helping you collaborate and do things more seamlessly, all the way to building autonomous multi-step agents that you can use in things like Workspace Studio. And these are not kind of your simple basic agents. These are things that actually understand how to solve complex problems, how to give you advice, how to advance your ideas forward. So just for an example today, I've been using agents within Google Vids and within Notebook LM to help me bring together, these concepts that I'm presenting to you today, to help me record and get feedback on my presentation, and then also to help guide and shape this session at Config. So these are things that we all have to do within our work context, and AI and the new tools that we're launching at Workspace can help you do that. So to drive a few clicks deeper into the native app layer. So thanks to Workspace Intelligence and Google's AI assistant, which is Gemini, these are active collaboration partners. They unify your personal context across chat, Gmail, wherever you are within Google Workspace, and then they bring that out to empower you to build agents and complex tools, helping you take those simple everyday tasks one step further. But none of that happens without, again, that big word, context. That context lives not only within your workspace area, it also lives within your company. So the way that you build and collaborate, design and develop with your colleagues that work in other parts of your business, the way that you interact with that, you're also doing the same thing across multiple other apps. Most of us probably use dozens or maybe even hundreds of apps within our day-to-day life at a company. And so the context that agents need to pull from each of those areas to build the workflows and know what to do and do it really well. So how are we bringing these pieces together at Workspace? Some of the ways that we're doing that is by utilizing Gemini Enterprise, which essentially touches your company's data, all that kind of information that's sitting within other teams or other tools, other departments, and you can utilize that to understand how to build that context into your day-to-day workflows. And then the other way that we're bridging that gap is by taking your personal user context within Workspace and then touching other apps that you can use to bring all that stuff to life as you build new tools. So if you're a developer out there or you're builder inclined, you can use our new industry standard tools like our Workspace MCP server to bridge those gaps. And by doing that, that context that lives within your emails, your chats, your documents, all of that seamlessly integrates into new apps, new experiences, new products that you can build today. So to double click on the Workspace MCP server, this is the way that we are helping partners, but also citizen developers, people with great ideas at companies to bring their workspace context into the apps and products that they want to build. So just like the way we talked about how with Figma, we've created integrations to bring Figma context directly into your workspace experience. Those are some of the things Addison touched on earlier. This time, if you are developing a new app, you have a product idea, you can bring your Google Workspace context into that product idea much more smoothly, much more seamlessly, faster, utilizing AI natural language models, using AI natural language prompts, instead of having to do it through the existing structure, which is also our API network. So this is actually a really exciting development because we're not only launching these tools and abilities, these skills that you can utilize within Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Chat, and People directories, but we're also enabling universal search. And so with universal search, again, this will enable you to find all that context, pull it into the places where you want it to go, and then launch those new apps seamlessly. So we're working with some early access partners to bring some of those products to life very soon. But for all of you, you can go into our Google Workspace developer area at the QR code that you see here and start to tinker, start to build, start to have some ideas that you work with within the developer preview that then when we GA, you can start to bring out to the world. So we've covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for your attention here. We've talked about going from kickoff to canvas. We've talked about tips to use Workspace and Figma together. Addison gave some awesome examples of how this works for a designer context and how that person can bring this amazing app to life. And then for the developers, for the developer inclined out there, I talked about how you can use agents within Workspace and how soon you can build your own apps with Workspace MCP servers to bring that context to life. So this has all been really exciting to see come alive. I can't wait to see what more will come from our partnership with Figma, but most importantly, I can't wait to see what will come from all of you out there, what new product ideas you'll launch, and how you'll bring the context that you use every day to those new product experiences and to those new apps. So don't take my word for it. Hopefully you guys know that Reading Rainbow context, little throwback. But check out our QR code. Go to the Workspace Marketplace, tinker around with the Figma ecosystem integrations, and check out some of the other apps that we have there. We have a booth today in the partner space, so stop by our booth if you want to learn more or just talk about ideas and different ways that you can bring some of these things to life. Come say hi. And most importantly, have a great config. Thanks so much.